Hello and welcome to FP Talks. I'm Farooq Patafi. If you haven't followed this channel, kindly do so. Also, click the bell icon so that you can get updates immediately. Also, on your screen, you will find my socials being flashed. You can follow any of the social media account that I have. Also, there's a QR code here. If you scan that code, immediately you will reach my WhatsApp channel where I keep my followers updated on the columns that I write, whatever interactions I have, whatever opinions I have. So it will help you. Today we are going to talk about the world order, especially after the second victory of President Donald J. Trump. And that is important to remember because every day you are being told by various pundits that the sky is falling or the world is collapsing or whatever is happening is something which is not good or which is really bad for everybody. It is not true. And there's a reason why you have to appreciate this moment because a lot of changes are coming, but these are changes which are outcome of democracy. Remember that a majority of Americans voted for President Trump not only through electoral votes but also popular vote. And that is not all. When you also look at the Congress, the two houses, the two chambers of Congress, there too they got majority. And if you add the Supreme Court conservative majority, now you have a president with the trifecta of power, right? With that kind of a mandate, what exactly is it at stake, and why is it that the new president, the 45th and 47th president, is trying to do whatever he can as quickly as possible? Now it goes for tariffs also, it also goes for the claim of defunding various organizations. We know WHO has been defunded by the US. There are other bodies that might also be facing the same kind of fate. And then you saw what happened with USAID too. And after that, of course, there are many people who are thinking that perhaps America's power is being dismantled. But you have to appreciate that with this kind of mandate, American people are not blind. They are clearly voting for something which was missing earlier. Remember that there were many things that happened. Let me remind you about the world order as it has been shaping up. Of course, a bipolar world emerged out of the Second World War. After that, it was the US which tried to make or remake Europe after its own image, and of course, parts of Asia also. You have seen what happened with Japan elsewhere. So, with that kind of effort and Bretton Woods systems, IMF and World Bank and what have you, with that kind of system, America actually tried to fight the Cold War and also tried to be leader of the world. That continued until the collapse of Soviet Union. After Soviet Union collapsed, there were two mistakes. Like 1945, they could not come up with a Marshall Plan for the former Soviet Union. And after that, something else happened. The America's allies, because America at that time froze. It did not know what to do. All its appendages departments were only primed for a Cold War, and now all of a sudden things had stopped. Then what happens is that when you are frozen in time, what happens is other countries pounce. And this is what happened. A lot of countries came, especially given that Huntington had given his Clash of Civilization thesis. Because of that, a lot of countries said, we are your allies and we are going to stand by you. And then, because it was also globalization, American jobs, American manufacturing went elsewhere. America and Americans were told that you have graduated to a new level of economic development. Now you don't need these old jobs and old things, right? And after that, what happens? After that, you have seen in 2008 that speculative level or evolution of economic order which was there, it collapsed and Americans suffered. The world suffered, but primarily because it was happening in America. America suffered the most. And simultaneously, because of 9/11, America got sucked into this war on terror where it fought in Afghanistan, and then it ended up invading Iraq also. And in Iraq, I think American citizens saw wastage of public trust and waste of public resources. So, with these two very important things in mind, Americans have been questioning one thing for sure, and that is, if it is a world order and we are the leaders, why are we paying for the security of other countries? Shouldn't they be paying us to make them secure? This whole idea of America needing regional proxies to contain A, B, or C, contain Russia, contain China, contain North Korea. All of these things were questioned. Now it seems that Americans, because then the invasion of Iraq took place under George W. Bush. So after that, they voted for somebody called Barack Hussein Obama, who was promising that he's going to shut down Gitmo and he's going to put an end to both these wars, Iraq and Afghanistan. He couldn't do it. After that, they went for Donald Trump, but at that time, he did not have the kind of team he needed. And because there were questions regarding his mandate at that time, all those conspiracy theories, you and I also got sucked into it. But what happened then? After 4 years of inconvenience and difficulties in governing, you saw President Biden actually taking over, and even he could not actually change a lot from where Donald Trump had left the world and America. So the desire, and he actually closed one theater, and that was Afghanistan. But the way it was handled, of course, there were questions. And then America got sucked into two other wars. Ukraine, which brought a lot of inflation, and then of course Haza did not have that impact on inflation, but it was unsettling to so to speak. Similarly, Americans also had this concern that open borders and there are so many people coming, and of course if you are from another country and you think that it is unfair, America is shutting down its borders, just tell me, will you tolerate this kind of incursion? If millions are coming into your country illegally, will you allow that? That doesn't seem to happen anywhere else. So, because of that, Americans, and by the way, President Trump's campaign should be credited with one thing, and that is they actually remained on the message. The way they twice in 2016 and 2024 they actually found angel moms, mothers whose children were killed by illegal immigrants. That was stunning, and all those things were happening. Inflation was there, and here you have a president who won very clearly. Now the question is, and his question basically is, why should America be paying for anything in the world when its own people might be suffering, right? There is poverty in many parts of America. There is inequality. There are people, for example, everybody actually keeps on, unleashing on him. But J.D. Vance's book actually tells you a very different story. It tells you about this pain of growing up in areas which have been neglected. So, President Biden actually did a great job of going for his, bipartisan infrastructure package. But then again, who was going to implement? Bureaucrats or people who had their own agenda also, right? So emphasis keeps on changing. So in the end, Donald Trump won. Donald Trump had made clear promises. He said a lot about tariffs. And although I think that in the end, if you impose tariffs, those things, because Americans buy those things that are coming in, the price will be very high and it is going to actually affect the cost. But the fact is that the purpose of 100% tariff is to, these are actually prohibitive tariffs that don't send your product here. If you do, and if somebody is dying to buy those things, then you are going to pay very high prices. I did not create this order. Americans voted for it. But now that they have all this tutting on television, all this scandalous behavior is beyond me. And trust me, one thing is for sure, no one country owes anything to any other country, right? Especially America. When you saw that episode where President Zelensky comes and there's a kind of fight, every American, pundit seems to be dissing at President Trump and, J.D. Vance. But the question is, if I am on the receiving end and there has been such an incredible change, and if I want something more, if I go to the king or somebody who is elected, a president, somebody, I mean, I'm using king analogy only to just express this idea that there's somebody at the top, right? When you are there, shouldn't you be, playing smartly instead of being so combative? And what happened, right? In the end, it left bad taste in everybody's mouth. And then one kept on thinking that things are going to fall apart. Now, do you think that President Trump is a proxy for President Putin? Not exactly. Not at all. Why not? Because there is something that you have to understand. His concern about President Zelensky actually emanates from that first impeachment, where, of course, it was a call between Zelensky and Trump that led to impeachment, that failed the impeachment, right? And then failed because he was not replaced, he was not removed from office, and Senate couldn't actually sign off on it. So that failed. Now the question right now is, if there is some kind of animus, if there is any kind of doubt or suspicion on the other party's mind, how do you do it? Do you play, this is an ally you're talking to? Should you be more diplomatic or combative and abrasive? So this is the whole story, right? Otherwise, I think that, excuse me, the reason why President Trump is trying to actually reaching out to President Putin, there's a very simple reason. Just before, the election, because after the start of the Ukraine war, America and President Biden tried to do whatever they could to isolate Russia, and they imposed heavy, sanctions. They excluded them from various bodies and tried to actually fail the Russian ruble. In the end, what happened was that there was an appetite for some kind of counterculture, so to speak, international counterculture, economic order. So BRICS, this body of Brazil, India, China, Russia, and others, right? They tried to actually come up with their own currency. They started talking about de-dollarization. In that state of affairs, I don't know whether that would have been successful or not, but that would have directly challenged America's economic ascendancy. So why not actually reach out to the man? You cannot win this war either way. There is a deadlock and people are dying. So it makes sense that you actually reach out to people and convince them. Russia is not a bad ally to have, right? Ukraine is great. I have huge respect for Zelensky's courage, not in White House, but courage in Ukraine, where his country was being invaded. Remember that in Afghanistan there was a man called Ashraf Ghani. The things started to fall apart. He just packed up and ran, but Zelensky did not do it. So I have huge respect for that. But in the end, how many people are going to die? Right now, I don't think that Ukraine should cede too much ground. I don't think that Ukraine should, make peace with Donbass and other areas that have been taken over. But if you think that Crimea is going to actually magically come back to you, it won't happen. We know it. It happened in 2014, and since then a lot has changed. So, in this state of affairs, to think that Donald Trump is doing something that is against the interest of America, and then he is somehow a stooge of President Putin, then are is the majority of American people also stooges of Russia? If that is the case, the jig is up, then give it up, right? Otherwise, American people saw something in the man. And again, the way Democrats manage their affairs before the election, during the elections, first they abandoned Biden, then they try to do exactly that with Kamala Harris also. That is shameful. So they brought it upon themselves. Instead of actually wasting their time crying horse on television, they should be doing one thing. Go into people, just check with them what exactly do they need. Hear them, make it 1 year tour, make it 2 years tour. America is a huge country, 50 states. Why not reach out to every part and understand what exactly is bothering people? Why is it that progressives and liberals are losing their ground repeatedly, constantly? So these are the things. And then USAID. Again, which government body should say that we are not accountable to the Congress, right? Congress, you must have seen the hearings that went on. Unfortunately, by becoming the guinea pig, they actually accelerated the reconstruction of administrative state. But remember, at the time of elections, you and I were repeatedly saying that Project 2025 is out there and they might implement it. American people still voted for the man. Put two and two together. What did they need? They think that whatever this order is, bureaucrats, this hope he changes stuff, it's not working for American people. Now, if you believe in democracy, should you actually imply otherwise? Now, the whole argument that we need proxies to counter or isolate this country or that country, it has been challenged twice by Donald Trump. He says that why do I need any other country to counter so and so? If we have to, challenge China, we are capable. If we are rich, we can take care of all these matters, right? If we are rich and powerful, we can take care of Russia also, although he believes that it will not be needed, neither in China's case or Russia's case. But he makes a good point. All this idea of actually having local representatives who can lobby you, who can affect your judgment, who can change your policies, and then you have to actually, carry them around as well. Why should that be the case, right? Europe is a big place. This is the argument from American side. I understand Europe has its own concerns, but trust me, one major failure of Europe especially when it came to Brexit and whatever happened, because Brexit was the beginning of decline of EU. UK's economy fell apart. Then the second, shock actually, of course, second was COVID, but they managed to survive COVID situation. But the third one was Ukrainian situation. Now you have to find a way, a balance to actually sustain yourself and to stay together. America also has various places which actually keep on asking for independence. What do? You solidify your union. EU did not do that. Because of what? Again, bureaucracy. If you have too much bureaucracy, this will keep on happening. But I think in coming days, America and Europe's relationship is going to hold. But don't allow the kind of situation that emerged when President Zelensky went. Two people actually gave him masterclass. Actually, three people. Narendra Modi went there. Donald Trump was actually criticizing India many times. Modi did not fight, and he was complimenting. There was one small moment when he lost his cool regarding Adani, but elsewhere he was okay. Second one, Macron, amazing man, and showed how it is done. I think hats off to him. Third, Prime Minister Starmer, he also behaved very effectively, very intelligently. This is how you actually work. You manage your relationships, especially when you know you need some, you attach a lot of importance to that relationship. With that kind of state of affairs, I think that in coming days there is going to be space for Zelensky to make up to America. And I think that this whole idea of military backstop, in the end, the actual thing that is going to matter is whether Americans are on ground and whether they are, there's a mineral deal. It is automatically an assurance. But of course, there are going to be some compromises, and I don't mean territorial ones. I mean this NATO business. Right now, NATO is already in a state of shock. We don't know whether it exists or not. It is like Schrodinger's cat. So, in that state of affairs, it is important to keep your sanity with you. These countries are very powerful, rich countries. They can manage their affairs. And right now, if Americans since 1945, they have been the giving tree, right? They American, I mean, you can talk about state and its policies, but American people have been very generous with their affairs with the world. I think it is about time, if they are in pain, if they are feeling this, they have this feeling that they have been left behind, that their allies are taking advantage of them. It is high time to actually reconcile with that reality, let them heal. Until then, the world can manage. And I mean, don't tell me India, Europe, South Korea, so many other countries cannot actually, stay their ground no matter what happens. And if they need American help, they can't pay for it, right? So these are important things to remember. I think that pundits, by trying to cling to something that has been old and gone, they they are just undermining themselves. The biggest problem with international relations as a discipline is that it is hardly a unified field. Everyone has their own theory, and most, because there are only 195 countries, and you are talking about nation states, and nation states are only what, 300, 400 years old. before Treaty of Westphalia, they did not exist. So you don't have the kind of data that is needed to qualify any theory. So that's why every time there has been an accident, there has been something unexpected from the fall of Soviet Union or the collapse of Soviet Union, fall of Berlin Wall to 9/11, to other things that have happened, including invasion of Ukraine. They have never been able to predict what is going to happen in time or before time. So at this moment, the experts are also requested to, you know, constrain themselves at least, behave in a manner which is not too aggressive, because in the end, it is your field, it is expertise which will suffer. And if you keep on rattling the cage, if you keep on attacking the US president, he has immense power after the Supreme Court's ruling before the elections about immunity, and then this kind of electoral mandate. Why do you want to ruin something good? If there is a government, work with it, and then the world order can take care of itself. I don't think that we are heading towards great power rivalry or competition. I don't think we are heading towards a cold war, whether it is between China and America, or for that matter Russia or America. I think that in the end, everyone will be so integrated as economies interdependent also, that they will not be able to decouple. There are areas which we can talk about, like AI. Someday we are going to do that. But right now, it is important to understand the moment, to read the tea leaves properly, and be sane about it. This was today's program. Thank you very much for watching. Kindly, once again, let me remind you, follow this channel if you haven't already, and also hit the bell icon, and then follow these social accounts as well. Thank you very much for watching. Take care. Bye bye.